All right. Hi, everyone. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me and see me only for a little while. Yes? No? Can everyone hear me and see me? Walaikum assalam. All right. We are unfortunately, we had a hardware problem today, and our webcam that we used normally is not working today. So I've just turned the webcam of the machine that I'm using right now to work on, so that I can do a sound check and I can tell you that I'm here and it's me before I actually switch this off, because I'll have to lay the screen down and write on it, because you know I write a lot. So I treat this tablet as my board. So I'd have to put it down and switch the webcam off, because the only thing that you would be able to see would be the roof. So can I switch this off? I just want everyone's confirmation that they're there. And since you have confirmation that this is me and that I'm here, I'm going to switch this off. All right. Okay. All right. So if you look at the handout section today, since this is the last study session and we have a mock debrief tomorrow, what I wanted to tell you was that I have uploaded the P1 knowledge summary. That's the PDF document by the name of P1KS. In your handout section. If you can please open the handout section and look at the P1 knowledge summary PDF file. Can everyone see it? Can all of you download it? Because a lot of you asked me to email you this after the sessions have ended, which is not a viable solution for me. There are at least 100 of you, and all of you will ask me for the P1 knowledge summary. These are the revision notes that I've been talking about, and as promised, here they are. They're here for you to download. Please, you cannot download it. I hope you can. It's there, so you can. Says it's forbidden. All right. So maybe you'd have to wait till the end of the session to actually download it. But this should be downloadable. I uploaded it over here so that you can download it. I will be talking about the P1 knowledge summary towards the end of the session, and I will discuss how to use it and how to actually prepare from it after you've used it or after you've finished with the sessions. All right. So let's move forward. Let's get going. The P1 revision notes are in your handout section. You can download them and use them. I will tell you how to use those revision notes towards the end of the session. All right. So welcome to the last study session, and let's see what we have lined up for today. So your P1 syllabus is broken down into three major areas: governance, risk, and ethics. Of these three areas, we've covered 1 and 2. So governance and ethics, risk we've covered, and we have to cover ethics today. And within ethics, we are going to be covering 3 major topics today. So within ethics, we are going to be covering 3 major areas of your syllabus: ethical perspectives, corporate social responsibility, and environmental, as well as environmental and social reporting. So these are the 3 areas that we are going to be covering today. So no, you don't have the slides for today right now, Regina. I'm only allowed to upload around 5 handouts at one time. Bear in mind that as soon as we're done with the day 3 slides and the day 3 practice session, we are going to give you the day 5 slides and the day 5 practice session questions as well. So Regina, I do have that in mind. Don't worry, you will have all of the material that I've prepared. I will never leave anything up to chance. So, all right. So let's start, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with ethical perspectives. All right. Just to put this into perspective, and just to start the first section, first topic, and put it into perspective, remember that we are going to be talking about 2 kinds of behavior exhibited by an organization's directors. So any organization's directors can exhibit 2 major kinds of behaviors. Now let's see what are the major kinds of behaviors that are exhibited or perspectives exhibited by a director. A director could exhibit absolutism. A director could either exhibit absolutism or be an absolutist director, or a director could exhibit relativism or be a relativist director. Both of these theories have drastic differences, and both of these theories are actually applicable on any kind of director that you may see within an organization. Now listen to this carefully. Within your exam, you will be given the behavior and the statements given by different directors, so 1 or 2 directors, and you will be asked to classify whether you think or assess whether you think a certain director is an absolutist director or a relativist director. Another name for these theories are non-consequentialist. So a non-consequentialist director and a consequentialist director. These are both synonymous with relativism and absolutism. Absolutism is also called non-consequentialism, while relativism is also called consequentialism. Now let's look at the difference between the two. What is the major difference between the two? An absolutist director, you have to listen to this carefully, an absolutist director believes in one set of moral values that he applies to all situations. Also, for an absolutist director, consequences or results of actions do not matter. It is the act that should be judged. Now, what does this mean? What do these 2 statements mean? Now listen to this carefully. An absolutist director or a non-consequentialist director is called non-consequentialist because this director does not believe in looking at the consequences or results of actions. This director believes in judging the act itself or the action itself rather than the consequence. So for example, and listen to this example carefully. For example, for an absolutist director, child labor will always be wrong. Why? Even if that means that child labor will lead to reduced costs and hence enhanced profits. Why? because this director has decided that using children or underage individuals for workforce is wrong. So he's applying one set of moral values to all situations, even if in some situations there may be some positives in child labor. For example, in countries where education system is not developed, and in countries where the rate of poverty is very, very high and unemployment is high, child labor may have one benefit of giving children a skill set that they can use in the future and maybe not have to beg and not have to take to streets in order to earn money. So that is one of the positives. But an absolutist director will not consider the positive consequences of child labor, but will only look at the negatives of child labor, the act of manipulating underage individuals for the purpose of workforce. So an absolutist director, once he decides that something is unethical, he applies the same principle on all situations uniformly. So listen to another example carefully. An absolutist director, if he has decided that paying a bribe, example, paying a bribe is wrong, then he will not believe in paying commission to government officials in order to get planning permission for a factory, in order to get planning permission for a factory that may provide employment to everyone that lives close to that factory. Now listen to the example carefully again. An absolutist director will believe that paying a bribe or paying a commission to government officials in order to get planning permission for a factory will be wrong, even though constructing that factory might mean giving employment and bringing prosperity to every region that surrounds the factory. Why? Because this director will not consider the consequences being prosperity and high employment. This director will only look at the fact that a bribe is being paid, and he will judge the act, not the consequence. That is an example of an absolutist director, a director who believes in absolute values, who believes that results and consequences should not be considered and only the act should be judged, the act of paying a bribe. No matter how positive the consequences are, an absolutist director says, I do not care about consequences. I will judge the act. And since the act of paying a bribe is wrong, I will not pay a bribe. I don't care if the factory is not made. Similarly, an absolutist director will not believe in child labor, even though there will be some positive consequences of child labor as well. So can everyone tell me, do you understand what absolutism is? Do you understand what absolutism is? All right, good. So where is everyone today? Where is Samson? Where is everyone? So, all right. So only about the act, Rebecca. Well done. Okay, brilliant. So the next concept or the opposite concept is relativism. A relativist director believes that one set of moral values cannot be applied to all situations. Because such a director would believe that ethics and morals change according to circumstances. This same director believes that if consequences are positive, then the act itself is justified. All right. So now listen to this carefully. A relativist director believes that moral values are relative and they differ in different situations. So something that may be unethical in one situation may be ethical in another situation depending on what the situation is. This director is more practical in his approach when he says that sometimes consequences of actions are positive and hence you should not judge the act itself, but you should judge an act by the consequences, and if consequences are positive, then the act is justified. For example, this director, if he works in a pharmaceutical company, may justify the act of animal testing by saying that it saves human lives. So does a relativist not know that animal testing is wrong? No, he does. He does. He believes that animal testing is wrong. But he also believes that in some situations animal testing may be justified because in this case, in a pharmaceutical company's case, animal testing is going to save human lives. In which case, a relativist director says that it is right. An absolutist director, on the other hand, will say if animal testing is wrong for cosmetic companies, then it is wrong for pharmaceutical companies as well. Because an absolutist director is judging the act of testing products on animals. And he does not care if that product is a cosmetic or a medicine. A relativist director says, while animal testing may be wrong for a cosmetic company, for pharmaceutical companies, the same moral values cannot be applied because the consequence of that act is positive. And the consequence is saving human lives. Does everyone understand? Moral values are ethics. No, Sayyid, you will not have to say which is right and which is wrong. In the question, you will not have to say which is right and which is wrong. You would just have to evaluate the positives and negatives both. Does everyone understand? Yes? No? Come on, people. Are we asleep today? All right. I want you all to participate. Come on, it's our last study session together. You want to leave a good impression. I want to remember this session. This has been by far, and I'm in all seriousness, one of the most interactive sessions that I've had. So I like it when you guys ask questions. I like it when you participate. You keep me on my toes. Let's keep it that way. All right. So an extension of these, absolutely. Suhail, but don't get disappointed yet. We're just getting started. All right. So an extension of these theories is another theory, deontology and teleology. Now, these two theories are extensions of absolutism and relativism. They are alike. They are similar to absolutism and relativism. Deontology is very similar to absolutism, while teleology is very similar to relativism. All right, let's see what deontology says and what teleology says. All right, the deontological approach says that an act is ethical only if it fulfills three tests. So a deontological director says that an act is ethical only if it fulfills three criteria or three tests. Now what are those three tests? The first is consistency. The second is humanity. The third is universal law. Now, bear in mind that a deontological approach or a deontological director also believes that act should be judged regardless of results. So an act should be judged regardless of results. Now, tell me, what is the similarity between absolutism and deontological approach? What is the similarity between absolutism and deontological approach? What is the similarity between deontological and absolutism approach? Judging the act, judging by act. Regina, you're absolutely right. Both are non-consequential. Absolutely, Neelam. Not paying attention to consequences. Absolutely. They judge the act and they disregard the consequences of those acts. Consequences and results are not considered at all. All right. So deontological director says that an act is only ethical if it fulfills 3 criteria or if it fulfills 3 tests. What are those 3 tests? So in consistency, the first test is, does everyone follow the same principle? So consistency is the first test or the first maxim, and in consistency a director asks himself, does everyone follow the same principle? Now, in yes or a no, as far as a deontological director is concerned, does child labor, does the act of child labor pass consistency, pass the test of consistency, yes or no? For a deontological director, does the act of child labor pass consistency? No, it does not. Why? Because child labor is not used by all industries, by all companies. So is it all right for everyone? Is it consistently used by everyone? And the answer is no. Afroz, just wait. You have to wait. I will get to that. All right. So the next is humanity. In humanity, a deontological director has to apply this test, the following test, on a decision. Humanity says, do not treat living things as tools to earn profit. Rather, treat with dignity. I have no idea why this is happening. With dignity. So, humanity, the test of humanity says that if an act uses living things, and any living thing, plants, animals or humans, as tools to earn profit, then it is wrong. Every living thing must be treated with dignity. Now tell me, everyone pay attention on your chat boxes. Now I'm going to be strict about this. Come on your chat boxes, start answering. Does child labor pass the test of humanity? Does child labor pass the test of humanity? All right. Okay, that's good. Everyone's here. I can see familiar names. That's good. That puts me in my safe zone. Good. All right. Okay, so tell me, does animal testing pass humanity? Does animal testing pass humanity? Not really, Rebecca, not at all. Well done. It does not. Why? Because humanity does not only talk about humans. It talks about all living things, and that includes humans, animals, and plants. So all living things must be treated with dignity rather than tools to earn profit. The last test is universal law. And in universal law, a deontological director thinks, what would others think? So a deontological director would then think, what would others think if they found out that my company was using child labor, or my company was testing products on animals? And if that director is scared about bad reputation, then the act is wrong. Then the act is wrong. Employees are also human, Fawad, yes, but since child labor is an ethical dilemma, that's why we talk about child labor and not just normal employees, right? Because the ethical dilemma is not employment. Ethical dilemma is child labor, all right? Okay, so you have to be patient. I don't know if it's today or the fact that we've just started, but how come I can see that you guys are getting impatient? You know me, right? And you know the fact that I do answer questions. So you have to be patient. Things take time to appear on my screen. I take time to actually read them and then answer them. To act in the best interests of public, yes, Ali, normally. All right. No, I've already answered that. Okay, so deontological director is judging the act. He's applying the 3 tests of consistency, humanity, and universal law on the act. If you pay attention to this theory, it does not talk about consequences at all. It does not focus on consequences at all, because similar to absolutism, this director does not believe that results should be judged. These directors, deontological directors, or absolutist directors, are also called dogmatic in their approach. Dogmatic in their approach. So dogmatic, absolutist, non-consequentialist, or deontological are synonymous. Afroz, I hope that answers your question. So dogmatic approach is similar to absolutist, non-consequentialist, or deontological. Its definition is exactly the same. So remember, a deontological director would apply these 3 tests on the decisions that he's going to take before he takes a decision to know whether the act is justified, whether the act is ethical or not. And if the act fails any of these tests, if it fails consistency, or if it fails humanity, or if it fails universal law, then the act is unethical. An act has to pass all 3 tests, all of them, to be ethical, to be considered ethical. So the deontological director applies these 3 tests or these 3 criteria on decisions to judge whether the decision is justified or the decision is ethical or not. A teleological director, on the other hand, believes that if consequences are positive for 2 parties, number 1, company or his organization, and number 2, the greater society, then the act is justified. And the basic difference, if you see, between deontology and teleology is teleological director considers the consequences. A deontological director is considering the act, and that's the basic difference. That is also the difference between absolutism and relativism. So a teleological director says, if an act has positive consequences for my company or for the greater society, then the act is justified. So when a teleological director considers only the consequences for his company, then he is said to practice egoism. When a teleological director only considers consequences for his own company, then he is said to be practicing egoism. Because egoism is when a director only considers consequences and results for his company. When a director considers results for the greater society or says that consequences are good for for the greater good, then he is said to be practicing utilitarianism. Utilitarianism. Now these are just words that you don't have to pronounce, thankfully. Only I have to pronounce them. But even if you find them to be slightly tongue twisters, please bear in mind that you must know the terms only. Alright, so a teleological director says that if consequences are positive for company or for the greater society, then the act is justified. When he only considers the company, he is said to be practicing egoism. When he considers the greater society or the greater good, then he is said to be practicing utilitarianism. Now, it is not as hard as it sounds. And for that, and to demonstrate that, we have to do a question so that you know how easy it would be to actually do a question that is related to this topic. Let me just open the practice material. Let me go to the practice material myself. This should be the last question on your day 3 practice slides. No. Okay, I'm having a hard time trying to find it. All right. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let's start with this. So this is December 2015, question number 4, part A2 that we are going to do. So part A2, let's review what the question is. So you should have the questions in your handout section. Let's review what the question is. Explain the ethical theories of deontology and teleology or consequentialism and analyze which of these approaches have been adopted by Sarah and Jake. This carries 6 marks. There are 2 marks for the first section of the requirement and 4 marks for the second section of the requirement. The first section of the requirement is direct, straightforward, and the second section has relevance to the case. Now, 2 and 4, analysis would mean you'd have to give your analysis on behavior of Sarah and Jake and give reasons why. Give reasons why you think so. You think so. All right. So this is a smaller scenario. This is not very big. So you will take 5 minutes to read this and then answer the question. So you have 5 minutes. It's 6:34 now. We resume at 6:40. I've given you 1 extra minute. Please read this carefully and we resume at 6:40. Start now. So I'm hoping everyone was able to read the question. Can you tell me yes, no? These are smaller questions now. You must be extremely happy because you're done with reading longer questions and you have to go on and read smaller questions now. Can everyone tell me, confirm, yes, no, were you able to read it? Brilliant. Good. You should have been able to read it. We have been practicing a lot of questions, and one of the best parts about that is your reading habits should have been improved. Your reading time should have been lessened. Abrar, which one? My handwritten slide? All right. In a moment, please. All right. Let's start discussing. So let's mention Sarah here and Jake here. Okay. Let's start with Sarah. What approach do you think Sarah has adopted? Teleological approach or deontological approach? Come on, everyone, in your chat boxes. I want you all to answer. I want evidence that you've been reading. Fawad, not relativism. The requirement clearly asks for teleological or deontological. And Sarah has adopted, well done, teleological approach. So where are my normal, the students that all right, Asim's here, Regina's here, Samson's somewhere. Sarah, Akib, you're absolutely right. Jawad, you're right. No, hey, your answer is not correct. It's teleological. Sarah has adopted teleological approach. Why? And now you'd have to justify using facts from the case. The fact is that she believes that bribe is wrong. However, wants to go ahead because it will increase employment, it would protect jobs, and enhance shareholder value. There's also a hidden line in here. Can anyone tell me what approach is Sarah exhibiting? Is she following egoism or utilitarianism? Come on, everyone, in your chat boxes. Utilitarianism or egoism? What is Sarah exhibiting? So there are two hidden words here. You'd have to tell me, what is she exhibiting? Utilitarianism or egoism? I want to know if you've been reading the question carefully. Come on. Rebecca, Suhail, greater society, Fawad, then what does that mean? Is she following egoism or utilitarianism? Greater good. Well done, Javed. Your answers are correct. She is exhibiting utilitarianism. Why? Because it clearly says, for the greater good. She maintained that sometimes it is necessary to take difficult decisions in business that are for the greater good, and yes, she is exhibiting utilitarianism. She does justify using company examples as well, so you could say egoism, but the hidden words were here, utilitarianism. Well done. Now Jake exhibits deontological approach, or the non-consequentialist approach. Why? Can anyone tell me why? Why do you think Jake is exhibiting, or Jake has adopted, deontological approach? Come on, in your chat boxes. Hurry up, people. Start writing down in your chat boxes. Why do you think Jake is exhibiting a deontological approach? Because he's judging the act rather than the consequences. Because the consequences of this facilitation fee are positive. But he is only considering the fact that the act of paying a bribe is wrong. The act of paying a facilitation fee is wrong. And hence he is going to base his ethics on that, no matter what the consequences. Well done, Jawad. Because he is not looking at the positive consequences of saving so many jobs, creating jobs, enhancing shareholder value, but he's only looking at the negative aspect of things, which is the fact that bribe is wrong. All right, now let's start with the next topic that we are going to be doing. Just going to close these and open the day 4 slides. You should have the day 4 slides in front of you. Now they're there for downloading. Please let me know if you experience problems so that we can solve them for you. Okay, so within ethics, we have just done the different approaches. No, Afroz, they will never ask you to say which approach is best for a situation. Never. Afroz, I hope that answers your question. So no. And Afroz, I did answer your question before as well, dogmatic and pragmatic. So I hope that answers your question as well. So we've just been covering the different approaches that can be adopted by directors in organization, and within that we did one theory, the theory of absolutism and relativism. We are now going to cover another theory, Kohlberg's levels of moral development. So I have no idea why I've written an E here. So Kohlberg's levels of moral development. So these are two theories, two separate theories. You've covered one, absolutism and relativism. We are just going to cover Kohlberg's levels of moral development. All right. And you have to listen to this carefully. I want your attention completely, entirely over here. This is very important from exam perspective. Please remember that the worst thing that you can do in a professional exam is do selective study. Because in a professional exam, your examiners are trying their best to cover each and every area of the syllabus. So if you leave any area, they will know and you will not pass. So it is very important to remember, please don't ask me which area is important. All areas are equally important because your examiners in professional level try their best to cover all areas of the syllabus, which means if you do selective study, that is recipe for disaster. All right. So according to Kohlberg, Vakas, I'll try my best. Okay. So according to Kohlberg, directors of an organization can operate or can make decisions based on 3 levels of moral development or operate on different levels of moral development. So some directors will be at the first level, some will be at the second level, others will be at the third level. So within an organization, there are several directors, and all directors normally exhibit different kinds of behavior, within which you can then judge which director is exhibiting which level of moral development, just like we did for absolutism and relativism. The first level is pre-conventional. The second is conventional. The third is post-conventional. All right. Now listen to this carefully. I want you all to pay attention. These levels, they have sub levels as well. So they have subcategories as well. Those subcategories you can read. But you don't have to memorize the subcategories. You have to memorize the main levels that are pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Within these levels, there are 2 subcategories that you don't have to memorize, you just have to read them. All right? So according to Kohlberg, different directors operate at different levels of moral development. What would you have to do in an exam? What you just did. You would have to read the point of view of a director, and then you would have to decide whether that director is pre-conventional, conventional, or post-conventional. You would have to read about a director and then decide whether that director is pre-conventional, conventional, or post-conventional. How would you decide? How will you know whether a director is pre-conventional or post? Number one, let's start with pre-conventional. A pre-conventional director bases his decisions on rewards, punishment, or self-interest. A pre-conventional director does not consider ethics at all. So all of a pre-conventional director's decisions are either based on the fact that he will get rewarded for that decision, punished for that decision, or he serves his own self-interest. And that's it. He does not consider ethics in his decision-making at all. According to Kohlberg, that is one of the most basic levels of moral development, where an individual's decisions are motivated by rewards, punishment, or self-interest, where this director does not consider ethics at all. For example, a director does not highlight fraud for fear of losing job. This director has just exhibited pre-conventional behavior because he based his decision on the fear of punishment. Punishment in the form of losing a job. Or that director feels that the person who perpetrated fraud is a friend. And if he told on his friend today, his friend might do the same thing to him in future, in which case this director has exhibited self-interest. He has not blown the whistle on fraud because he fears he's going to lose his job. And that way he is avoiding punishment. Or he is not indicating fraud because he believes that fraud was perpetrated by his friend, in which case he feels that if he did it to his friend today, his friend might do the same thing to him tomorrow, in which case he is serving his own self-interest and not ethics at all, because ethically the right thing to do would be highlighting fraud. So this director is not exhibiting ethics at all. He is just considering rewards, punishment, or self-interest in his decisions. So listen to this carefully. When in exam, you have to judge whether a director is pre-conventional, conventional, or post-conventional. Look at the reasons for decisions that he's using. And if his reasons are earning a reward, avoiding punishment, or serving self-interest, then this director is a pre-conventional director. Does everyone understand pre-conventional? Does everyone understand pre-conventional? Just pre-conventional right now. All of you. Waqas, where are you? Waqas Tawfiq. All right. So I'm assuming all of you understand. Let's move to conventional. Okay. So a conventional director bases his decisions on the norms of company, peers, and peers means colleagues, friends, or society. So, again, this director does not base decisions on his own ethics. He believes that he's going to follow the ethics of others around him. And others around him could be colleagues working in the same company, norms of the company, friends, society, or the industry even, or industry. So he does what others are doing around him. A pre-conventional director did what was most likely to earn a reward, avoid a punishment, or serve his own self-interest. A conventional director does what the others are doing. So others around him, his friends, his colleagues, the people in his company, or the people in his industry. So for example, this director knows that certain figures in the annual report have been overestimated. Listen to the example carefully. So, this director knows that certain figures in the annual report have been overestimated. He also knows that others in the company know. He goes to the CEO and he says that certain figures are overestimated. And the CEO says, I know, and it is okay because we will try to cover up for those figures in the future. So this director does not blow the whistle on overestimated figures simply because he thinks that others know, the CEO knows, and they think it is all right. So why should I have to blow the whistle? Why should I do it? I want acceptance from others around me. So I won't take a decision based on what's right or wrong. I am not basing a decision on rewards or punishment. I am basing my decision based on the fact that others around me think it is okay, that others working for the same company think my decision is right. And that's the company norm. So if the norm in your company is that figures are overestimated and that people overlook that and try to make up for them in the future, then that's your company's norm. And you follow your company's norm. Similarly, another example would be giving more than a better picture of the company in director's commentary, knowing that the actual financial statements don't reflect such a good picture of the company. Now, a director knowingly does it because he knows that that other directors do it every year. He knows that within the industry, several other companies have been portraying a good picture of their business despite the fact that financial statements do not reflect that. So, this director still goes on showing a better picture in his commentary within the annual report simply because the others are doing it and the industry feels that it is all right. Has this director regarded ethics at all? No. Has this director regarded rewards or punishment? No. He has only regarded what the others around him are doing, and he has based his decision on that entirely. So do you understand conventional? Does everyone understand conventional? All right. Let's move to, I don't understand what your rules. What about rules? Yes, this director will follow rules, but those rules that are set by the company itself. If this director was to follow laws, then this director would be pre-conventional because he doesn't want to break the law. He doesn't want to get punished if he breaks the law. Right, Rebecca? All right. So let's move on to post-conventional. Vikas, I hope you're paying attention. Yes? I'm going to wait for validation. All right. So I'm just going to explain what post-conventional means. Now this director bases decisions on his own beliefs about right and wrong. He or she, whoever the director is, does not consider reward, punishment, or acceptance of colleagues. He or she follows own moral values or own ethics. So this is the kind of director that has developed his or her own set of moral beliefs and follows that instead of looking at what the others are doing and instead of considering rewards or punishment. So this director is going to base all decisions on the fact that what he feels is right or wrong. Now listen to this carefully. I am a director. Let's take the example of me. I am a director and I operate in an industry where lying about financial figures is the norm. I also know that legally there are certain loopholes that I can exploit and get away with it. So I won't get punished. But since I believe in transparency and I believe that shareholders should not be misled, I do not want to lie about financial figures, even if the others around me think that it's okay, even if I know I won't get punished. I won't do it because I don't want to do it. I believe that is wrong. That is post-conventional, where for a director, what others are doing does not matter. What the norm is does not matter. This director will only base decisions on his own beliefs about right or wrong. Now listen to this carefully. I could be operating in an industry where child labor is used by all companies in the industry. For example, I could be in clothing retailing business. So I could be a cloth retailer, or a manufacturer and retailer, like Marks and Spencer, like Mango or Zara. And I could be operating in an industry where child labor is the norm. I could also be operating in a country where there are no laws against child labor. So listen, I will not get punished if I use child labor. Also, I will not get bad reputation if I use child labor because most of the companies in the industry use child labor and it is considered right. But as a director, I might feel that I don't want to use child labor because I believe that that's wrong. That is my belief. I don't care what the law says. I don't care what the others are doing. I don't want to do it because I believe that it is wrong. Please, Syed, do not overlap absolutism, relativism with Kohlberg's moral developments. That's one of the worst things that you can do, Syed. Please don't overlap concepts. Javed, he doesn't care about the society. This director cares only about his own moral values, and if he believes that it is wrong, he will not do it. Alright, now listen to this carefully. Same director, child labor example, and I'm going to put this all in a nutshell. One director uses child labor because he knows he will not get punished. He knows he will, and you have to listen to this example carefully because you have to answer. So hands on your chat boxes, everyone. Get ready to answer. So first example. One director wants to use child labor because he knows that there are no laws stopping him from doing so. He won't get punished. He knows that using child labor is going to reduce costs, increase profit, and earn him a bonus. And he knows that his performance appraisal is going to be good. What sort of behavior is this director exhibiting? Everyone, what sort of behavior is this director exhibiting? Pre-conventional. This is, listen to this carefully, pre-conventional behavior, because this director only considered reward in the form of bonus, avoided punishment in the form of breaching laws, and self-interest, his own performance appraisal. This director is a pre-conventional director. Now listen to this carefully. Another director wants to use child labor because he knows that all of the directors in the company think that child labor is right. He also knows that most of the companies in the industry use child labor and are okay with it. What sort of behavior is this director exhibiting? Pre, conventional, or post? This is conventional. Well done. This is conventional. Tasneem, this is not post, this is conventional, because he is considering what his friends are doing. He's considering what the industry is doing. He's considering that it is all right for his company. Now listen to another example carefully. A director does not want to use child labor because he believes that it is wrong. It is against his own ethical values, his own moral code. And he does not want to use child labor because he doesn't care if there are laws, if there are no laws stopping him from doing so. He does not care what the industry is doing. He doesn't want to use it because he believes it is wrong. This director is a post-conventional director. Absolutely. That is right. Let's do a question. Let's find out if you actually understand or not. We are here. We are going to do June 2015 question number 4A. If you open the practice handouts for day 4, all right, this should be the first scenario in front of you. Okay, let's consider the requirement. I'm going to give you a longer break simply because I'm going to give you prayer break and the question break combined. So this is going to be a 10-minute break. Let me first discuss the requirement with you. Distinguish between Kohlberg's conventional and post-conventional ethical responses and explain with reasons which ethical approach Mary took in her decision to publicize the change in emissions target. The marks are and 3. All right, let me confirm the mark allocation. Okay, so you have to distinguish between Kohlberg's conventional and post-conventional ethical responses and explain which level of moral development is being exhibited by Mary in this answer, in this question. All right, so you have 10 minutes to do this question. It is 7:08 right now. It's 7:08. Now we resume at 7:18 sharp. Let's do the question. All right. Your time starts now. Hurry up. All right. So I'm hoping that all of you have read this scenario and that you're back from the mass break. Everyone, are you guys back? Yes, perfect. Okay, welcome back. Let's start doing the question. Let's discuss what the answer was. Okay. So within this answer, let's first see that the first part of the requirement is knowledge-based, direct, straightforward. The next part of the requirement is case scenario-based. I'm sure that by now you must have seen a pattern to such requirements, where the first part of the requirement is almost always knowledge-based, direct, straightforward, carries lesser marks, and the second part of the requirement is scenario-based and carries more marks than the knowledge-based part. So always be ready to tackle such requirements in your exam, where you may be asked a knowledge-based, a direct, straightforward question in the first part that carries lesser marks, and then a scenario-based question in the second part of the requirement that carries more marks than the first. Now, may I please know which sort of behavior is Mary exhibiting? Is it pre-conventional, is it conventional, or post? Everyone, in one word, post or pre? Post, pre-conventional, what sort of behavior is Mary exhibiting? Mary, excellent, is exhibiting post-conventional behavior. Well done, Rebecca. Well done, Fawad, Sajjad, Zia. You're all, Wakas. Absolutely, you're all right. Mary is exhibiting post-conventional behavior. Now let's try and justify our answer using arguments from the case. Now you can use 3 arguments. Since I can see that the mark allocation is 6, you will have to use 3 arguments. The first argument for a post-conventional behavior is that Mary knowingly breached terms of her contract, confidentiality terms of her contract, to publicize information or take an action, publicize information that she believed was misleading. So that's the first point. All right. Now, the first point specifies that Mary is not pre-conventional, because had she been pre-conventional, she would not have breached terms of her contract for the fear of punishment. Listen to this carefully. Mary is not pre-conventional because had Mary been pre-conventional, she would never have publicized this information for the fear of losing her job or the fear of punishment in the form of having breached clauses of her contract. So she is not pre-conventional. Mary is also post-conventional because she publicized information even when others in the company knew about increasing emissions targets, decreasing emission targets, and were okay with it. So, had Mary been conventional, can anyone tell me what sort of a decision would she have taken? Had Mary been conventional, what sort of a decision would she be taking? She would not have publicized this information. She would have been silent because she knew that others were okay with the fact that emission targets had been revised. So she would not have publicized, going with the flow. Well done, Jawad, you're absolutely right. She will follow others, Rebecca. Your answer is right as well. Comply with job terms. Yes, she would have been silent. She would not have publicized this information simply because others in the company knew about the emission target revision and they were okay with it. So she would have done what others were doing, and that's what conventional means. The third is Mary publicized information because she believed, and believed being the key word here, that misleading information was wrong. She only took this decision because she believed that misleading information was wrong. And that's what a post-conventional director does. They do what they believe is the right thing to do. These three reasons will carry 2 marks each. And that's how you get 6 marks in the second part of the requirement and 3 marks for the first part of the requirement, where you would distinguish between conventional and post-conventional. Let's move to the next topic. And the next topic is ethical decision-making models. All right. So let me first specify, before I go into this, that AAA model, I'm just going to explain, because it hasn't been featured in an exam for a very long time. Now, this is where you listen to me carefully and know that AAA might come in the exam, so you have to prepare for it accordingly. Please don't think that since it has not been tested in the recent past, it will not be tested in the future. We will be practicing Tucker's 5-question model, so I will explain this plus practice this. Okay, another important point. You have to tell me if you understand that point. In your knowledge summary, in the revision notes that have been uploaded in the PDF form today, in the handout section, we have pointed out questions to do with specific topics. So after every topic in those revision notes, we have pointed out questions that have been tested in the past. My belief is that you should only practice questions that have been featured in the past exam papers. And any questions that have come in any revision kits that were not featured in the past exams are not up to the exam standard. So the only place where you should be practicing from is the past papers, the past exam papers. All right. So that's what we've done. We have cross-referred topics with questions from the past exam papers, and that's the only thing that you should do. For topics that we have not practiced in the sessions, because you have to understand that I only had 15 hours to do these sessions. For topics that we did not practice, or for topics that we did not cover here, small topics, please go through them from the revision notes, practice them from the revision notes, but your focus should be practice. That is the only thing that can guarantee a pass in the exam. All right, let's do AAA model. So we're still doing ethics. Within ethics, the next topic is decision-making models. These are models. Oh, sorry. Okay. These are models that directors can use to ensure that decisions taken are ethically right. So we are going to be doing 2 models. In both models, there's one similarity. The fact that these models tell directors how to take a decision in order to ensure that it is ethically right. Within these decision-making models, we are going to be covering 2. The first is the American Accounting Association model, or the AAA model. So the AAA model has 7 steps. Listen to this carefully. These steps you have to memorize. All of them. The sequence is important. So I mentioned where sequence is not important and sequence is important. Over here, the sequence is important. You must memorize the sequence. You should also memorize the steps. So the steps have to be memorized. These steps will have to be written as they are when answering a question in the exam. So you will write down the step, you will answer the question, then you will move on to the next question, you will answer it, then you will move on to the next question, so on and so forth. The sequence is important. The question itself is important. Please memorize it. All right. So the first step is, what are the facts of the case? These will be given in case scenario, and you will pick them up from the case scenario and mention them word for word in answer. So all you have to do is pick up words from the case scenario and mention them in your answer word for word. So you can essentially copy words from the case scenario and reproduce them in your answer. So let's take an example of a procurement manager who has been offered a significant bribe by a supplier for a contract. This procurement manager needs money for his child's medical bills. All right. So I've just given you an example. An example is that a procurement manager has been offered a significant bribe by a supplier for a contract. This procurement manager needs money to cover his child's medical expenses. All right. So step one would be, what are the facts of the case? And over here you would write that the procurement manager has been offered a bribe in return for a supplier contract. And that's it, just one line. So you can answer question number 1 in one line. I hope question number 1 is clear. Everyone? Is question number 1 clear? Yes? All right. So question number 1, you have to pick up words from the case and mention them in your answer, word for word. Okay. Next, what are the ethical issues of the case? Now, the ethical dilemma in this case is, whether bribe should be accepted or not. That's it. One line answer. So for step 1 and step 2, a one-line answer in your exam is sufficient. This is sufficient. All right. Does everyone understand step 2? So in the first step, we just mentioned that a procurement manager has been offered a significant bribe by a supplier in return for a contract. In step 2, what are the ethical issues in the case? Absolutely, Afroz, your answer is absolutely correct. The answer to the second step is, the ethical dilemma is whether the procurement manager should accept the bribe or not. Now, let's look at the third question. The third question is, what are the norms, principles, values related to the case? Now, this is extremely important. Listen to this carefully. You will mention 2 norms and principles. There will be norms of company and general norms of society. All right, now listen to this carefully. Listen to this carefully. Norms of the company will be given in the case. You will have to find them and copy them in answer number 3, or in step 3, you will have to copy the norms given in the case to you in step 3. You will be given the company's code of ethics. You will have to copy it in your answer to step 3. The answer to the second is the general norms of a society. According to the general norms of a society, bribe is considered a form of corruption, and hence goes against the rules of integrity, honesty, and property. You have to mention that, all right? Norms of the company will be given to you in the case. You have to copy them off, and you have to mention them in the answer. No, Abdullah, please don't use the absolutist or the relativist approach in the AAA model. I have asked you before, I will ask you now. Please don't overlap models. So I haven't asked you to do it, you will not do it. Wherever I allow you to do it, you will. But if I have not allowed you to do it, you will not overlap concepts. That would at least save you from confusion. All right? So don't overlap concepts. Never overlap concepts. That's always a recipe for disaster. All right? So in step 3, you will have to discuss the norms of the company and norms of the society. For norms of the company, keep your eyes open when you're reading the case study. Norms of the company will be given to you within the case. Now, norms of society would be, and you would generally write that, bribery is considered wrong, and bribery is considered a form of corruption in most societies, and it is also against general principles of integrity and honesty. You then move to step 4. All right. So you then move to step 4. I'm leaving space for myself, which is why I'm continuously erasing things, because these steps are too long for me to actually write down on a separate slide. So, okay, what are the alternative courses of action? Over here, bear in mind, in step 5, avoid mentioning consequences of alternatives or results of alternatives. Just mention alternatives in one line. So in one line. So the procurement manager has 2 alternatives. He could either accept the bribe, or he could reject the bribe and blow the whistle on the supplier. So 2 alternatives. He could either accept the bribe or reject the bribe and blow the whistle on the supplier. This would be a one-line answer. You don't have to write more than that. Okay. So the next question is, what is the best? So step 5 is, what is the best course of action that is consistent with norms, principles, and values identified in step 3? Again, this requires a one-line answer. And you say, not accepting the bribe would comply with company's norms and society's norms. So what question step 5 is essentially asking you to do is, the alternatives that you have mentioned in step 4, you have to tell the examiner which of these alternatives comply with the norms, principles, and values that you identified in step 3. So basically, this question number 5 asks you to overlay step 3 on step 4. So you would have to identify the alternative that complies with company norms and society's norms. So the answer in this example, the example that I'm following, would be that not accepting the bribe would comply with company norms and society norms. All right, hands on your check boxes, everyone. And you tell me, what are the consequences of each possible course of action? How many courses of actions did we identify? So I've just erased the example because that should be clear enough by now. So how many courses of actions were there? 2, 1 and 2. 1 was accepting the bribe and the second was rejecting the bribe. Remember, when you're mentioning consequences, all right, hold on, stop. Let me refine my question. Tell me the consequences of accepting the bribe. Tell me the positive consequences of accepting the bribe. Tell me negative consequences of accepting the bribe. Hurry up, everyone, start writing. So what are the positive consequences of accepting the bribe? What are the negative consequences of accepting the bribe? Ariba, you're absolutely right. Son will get treated. That's one of the positive consequences of accepting the bribe. All right. Yes, they will have to compromise integrity. He may be fired. Well done, Syed. So it would also lead to termination of job if it is found out. And there is another negative consequence as well. That supplier may not be providing value for money. So you've essentially now accepted a supplier that would cause loss of shareholder value simply because that supplier does not provide value for money. So that could be a negative consequence as well. Tasneem, absolutely, that sets the wrong precedence. And that supplier will be more inclined to bribe always. All right. So tell me the positive and negative consequences of rejecting the bribe. Both positive and negative consequences of rejecting the bribe. Syed, honesty. So positive consequence could be honesty. Well done. He's upheld the values of integrity and honesty. Those are the positives. Good reputation. He might also get rewarded. If he blows the whistle on this fraud, the company may reward him as well. What are the negative consequences of rejecting the bribe? Son won't get cured. Now listen to this carefully. Within step 7, the AAA model now asks you to take a decision. Remember, your decision might not always be what the norms and principles guide, depending on the severity of consequences. Depending on the severity of consequences. So your decision could either be accepting the bribe because the consequences of not accepting the bribe are too severe. Right? Or you could write that rejecting the bribe, blowing the whistle, and telling the company would be the right course of action. In step 7, you can write whatever decision that seems appropriate within the scenario, and then you justify your decision. That is the AAA model. Does everyone understand it? Please don't use absolutism, relativism, or any of those concepts here. Do you all understand AAA model? Azmina, yes. All right. Okay, Ariba, I'm glad you find it simple. And you should pray with all you've got that you get AAA model in the exam, because this is going to carry 14 marks, 14 easy marks, 14 scoring marks that you can absolutely get. So this is one of those topics that, where you can get 14 out of 14 if you've given the right answer. There are very few such topics in P1 where you can get a full mark if you get the right answer. Yes, Usman, the answer to your question is yes. Suhail, wrong question. I am not your examiner. I have met him, but I'm not your examiner. I can't say what is important and what's not. He might give it, they might give it in your exam, or they might not. Selective study is always wrong, and as your teacher, I will never encourage it, ever. For what final decision can be any, provided that you justify it properly, the final decision can be any. All right, so Tucker's 5-question model is another interesting decision-making model that helps directors decide whether a decision is ethically right. All right. So I've always found the Tucker's decision-making model, the Tucker's 5-question model, to be more practical than the American Accounting Association model, the AAA model. I'll tell you why. Because it starts with the most important question that the AAA model ignores. Is a decision profitable? And that should be at the heart of every decision that a director takes. Because if it is not profitable, you should not be looking at ethics at all. If something is not profitable, why even think about ethics? If it is not profitable, just leave it be. You don't even have to take a decision. So I think Tucker's 5-question model is more practical as far as decision making goes, because the first question that any director asks himself is the decision profitable? The second important question is it legal? The answer to both is going to be given in the scenario. So you won't have to estimate whether a decision is profitable or legal. You will be given that detail in your scenario. The next is it fair? Now this is very important. I want you all to pay attention. I want you all not to get distracted. Listen to this carefully. When you're answering, is it fair? Please, step 1 to answering, is it fair, is identify which stakeholders, I've used the short form for stakeholders. Please don't think that I've used another, yes, the sequence is important, yes. The answer to your question is yes. Identify which stakeholders are affected by decision. That's step 1 to answering question number 3. Is it fair? Step 2 to answering question number 3 is it fair for each individual stakeholder? Remember when we did stakeholders and we decided that all stakeholders are not equally affected by companies' decisions? The answer to this question lies there. You will have to first identify all the stakeholders that you can from the scenario, and then you would have to assess whether the decision is fair for all stakeholders or not. And remember, it will be fair for some stakeholders while it will be unfair for the others. You will have to discuss both. It will be fair for some stakeholders while it will be unfair for others. You will have to discuss both of them in your answer. Then the next question is it right? The answer to this question will be given using 2 theories, absolutism and relativism. Abdullah, this is where you overlap. This is where you start overlapping. And you will have to answer, is it right by using 2 theories? Right from an absolutist perspective or right from a relativist perspective? You will have to discuss both. You will have to say whether it is right from an absolutist perspective, and you will have to say whether it is right from a relativist perspective or not. And finally, is it environmentally sound? This will also be given in the case. So the answer to 1, 2, and 5 will be given in the case. The answer to 3 and 4 you will have to analyze. For 3, identify stakeholders and then analyze whether it is fair for each stakeholder or not. For 4, use absolutism, use relativism, and then analyze using both. It is not as difficult as it sounds right now. Let's do a question to set your understanding. All right. So the question that we have to do is December 2012, question number 4A. This should be the next question. This one. All right. So let's read the requirement. Use Tucker's 5-question model to assess the decision to choose route A. So here, if you were looking for an interactive session and you thought that yesterday's session was more interactive, now is your time to start participating. Use Tucker's 5-question model to assess the decision to choose route A. Just route A. Remember that. You have exactly 5 minutes to read and answer the question. You should write the questions in front of you so that you can write down the answers. You will have to mention if it's profitable, legal, fair. In fair, please identify all stakeholders given in the scenario. Right. How will you assess right? By using absolutism and relativism. And last, is it environmentally sound? All right, you have 5 minutes. Let's go. 7:50 right now. We resume 7:55. Hurry up. All right. Were you all able to read the question? Were you all able to read the question? Well done. I'm proud to see that you guys have improved a lot. Your reading times improved a lot. You can do smaller questions in 5 minutes and you can do longer questions in 10 minutes, which is excellent as far as reading goes. And I will tell you what, that half of the art of attempting P1 exam is reading the case very, very carefully. Actually, I'd say 80% of the art of attempting the P1 exam is reading the requirement, looking at the mark allocation, and reading the case carefully. If you have mastered that art, then there are very high chances that you will make it through the paper. All right. So let's start with the first one. I agree, Jawad, this is one of the most interesting cases that I do in my class as well. I enjoy doing this case. So, okay, I'm just going to erase the time limit that I gave you and let's start. So the answer to Tucker's first question, is route A profitable? Can all of you hear me? All of you? Can all of you hear me? All right, brilliant. Okay, so is route A profitable? The answer to this question is yes, it is profitable. Muna is absolutely right. You would have to explain that the NPV of route A is better by $1 million or higher by $1 million than route B. So not only is it absolutely profitable, it is also more profitable than route B. The second question, is it legal? Yes or no? Is it legal? Come on people, hurry up in your chat boxes. Yes or no? Regina, why would you think no? Yes, and you would use facts from the case and say both routes have been awarded planning permission. So yes, it is legal. Regina, I hope that explains it. I would never want you to give the wrong answer in the exam. All right. So the next is legal. So the answer to, the next is fair. The answer to fair is never a straightforward yes or no. Let's first identify stakeholders. Number one, the first and the most important stakeholder, shareholders. The second important stakeholder, Krul, Mr. Krul and his farm. The third important stakeholder, birds. So let's start. Is it fair to the shareholders? Yes or no? Come on. Everyone, is it fair to the shareholders? Is this decision fair, route A, fair to the shareholders? Yes, Afroz, the pressure group is created for birds, but birds are the direct stakeholders. Yes, it is fair. Why? Because it will increase shareholders' value more than route B. So yes, it is fair to the shareholders. Second, Krul. Is it fair to Mr. Krul? The answer is yes. If route A is chosen, Mr. Krul gets to keep his farm and maintain employees as well. Maintain employment as well. Is it fair to the birds? And the answer is no. It's not fair to the birds. Route A is not fair to the birds because it destroys their feeding grounds and that they're already endangered. So is it fair? Yes, we can include the government as well, Afroz, and the answer would be yes, it is fair to the government because it is legal. The next is it right? From an absolutist perspective, and you would write it like it is. From an absolutist perspective, is the decision to choose route A right? From an absolutist perspective, is the decision to choose route A right? Mevish, you're giving the wrong answer. No, I'll tell you why. Because an absolutist decides that animals, in this case birds, should not be endangered. Right? And business activities should not endanger any living thing. And for an absolutist, he would not look at the consequence of enhancing shareholder value or the fact that Mr. Krul gets to keep his farm. He will just look at the fact that feeding grounds for birds is being destroyed, and he will think that endangering birds for business gain is wrong. The act is wrong. A relativist, on the other hand, would justify the act since the result is positive. And what is the positive result? The fact that this will enhance shareholder value, the fact that this will improve employment, the fact that this will bring prosperity to the region. So a relativist would justify the act of endangering birds by mentioning that the consequences of this act are positive. Why? Which consequences? The fact that shareholder value will be enhanced, the fact that the region will see prosperity and increase in income. All right, so the last question, is it environmentally sound? Yes or no, people? Come on, in your chat boxes. I want all of you to answer. Is it environmentally sound? Start writing why. Everyone, all of you, start writing why. Why isn't it environmentally sound? Come on, Suhail, where are you? Because local ecosystem affected. Well done, Rebecca. Excellent. You've been so active throughout the sessions. Rebecca, Joanna, Arsalan, Abdullah, Syed, so many people that I want to shout out to. I'm so sorry that I can't take names of all because I haven't remembered all of you, but all of you have been so interactive. Excellent. So yes, Suhail, you're absolutely right. This is not environmentally sound because it destroys or disturbs, at least, disturbs local ecosystem. All right, so that is the answer to this question. Let's start on the next topic, which is corporate social responsibility. With this topic, we are going to cover several theories, and then we are going to finish off the session as well. So let me open a new slide. Let me just scribble on. I'll just open two just to be on the safe side. Okay. So let's start with what corporate social responsibility actually is, and then we will start with what the models say. So CSR is corporate social responsibility. This is a very interesting topic. It is new, so it is very important as well. CSR is basically the idea that organizations need to go beyond profit making and give back to society and environment. All right. So corporate social responsibility is a concept that says that corporations should look beyond profit making and should fulfill their responsibility to society and environment, because society and environment provide a lot of support to the organization. How does a society provide support? In the form of suppliers who come from the same society and provide raw materials to the organization, in the form of customers that come from the same society and provide revenue to an organization, in the form of employees who come from the same society and work for the organization, work for the profit of an organization. The environment gives natural resources. The environment gives an organization space to operate and make a profit. So, should it be an ethical responsibility of organizations to give back to the society and back to the environment? Yes. CSR says it should be an organization's ethical responsibility to give back to society and environment that gives so much support to the organization in return. Now, listen to this carefully, and this concept is very important. Do all businesses believe that they have a corporate social responsibility? No. All businesses do not believe in corporate social responsibility. Some businesses believe that their only motive is shareholder wealth maximization, while others believe that CSR is an ethical responsibility and hence must be fulfilled and should be fulfilled. So, those are 2 points of view. Now, just to take this theory further, just to bring this theory further, there are 2 points of views on CSR. Some businesses believe in strategic CSR and some believe in CSR strategy. Now, what is the difference between strategic CSR and CSR strategy? Let's do that. This is an important concept. Please listen to this carefully. Please try and understand it, and then we will move forward. All right. So, strategic CSR is when organizations use CSR in form of charity and donations to enhance reputation and fulfill profit motive. Now, strategic CSR is where organizations use CSR in the form of charity, in the form of donations, to enhance their own reputation and fulfill profit motive. All right. Now listen to this very, very carefully. Those organizations that believe in strategic CSR do not believe that CSR is their ethical responsibility. They believe that giving donations and sponsoring charitable organizations can be used to market an organization's image, improve an organization's reputation, enhance the share price, and enhance profit as well. Such organizations are said to be following a strategic CSR approach. They don't believe that CSR is their ethical responsibility. Rather, they treat CSR as a tool to further their profit-making objectives. Profit-making objectives. Now, listen to this carefully. Other organizations believe that just like profit is an objective, CSR should also be an objective, a basic objective of an organization. And just like strategies are developed to enhance profit in the long term, businesses should also set CSR goals for long term and make CSR strategy to fulfill or to achieve those goals. To achieve those goals. That's the difference between strategic CSR and CSR strategy. Organizations that follow CSR strategy believe that it is their ethical responsibility. Just like profit making is their responsibility towards shareholders, CSR is their ethical responsibility towards other stakeholders. So just like they make strategies to enhance long-term profit, they will make strategies to achieve their CSR goals, and that's called a CSR strategy. Strategic CSR is where CSR is used as a tool to enhance a business's reputation and to make further profits. The approach in both is different. Absolutely. Jawad, you're absolutely right. Does everyone understand the difference between CSR strategy and strategic CSR? All right. Now, listen to this carefully. If I only give a donation at the end of every year to show my shareholders how good I am and how responsible I am, so that shareholders can be impressed, so that my reputation can be enhanced, and so that my share price goes up, then what am I following? Strategic CSR or CSR strategy? Rebecca, answer the question. What am I following? Strategic CSR or CSR strategy? I'm following strategic CSR. Why? Because I'm using my donation to market my company image in front of my shareholders. Now listen to this carefully. If I have made a goal to make a fully operational NGO or a not-for-profit organization that provides food and shelter to orphans, and I start putting together a reserve to make this foundation fully operational by the end of those 5 years, what have I just done? Strategic CSR or CSR strategy? CSR strategy, because I set a goal for myself in the upcoming 5 years that I want to make a not-for-profit organization that provides food and shelter to orphans. Now, that would require resources. That also requires cost. I don't want to market this to my shareholders. I want to do it because I believe that that should be my goal as well. Other than making a profit over 5 years, my goal is setting up a fully functional foundation to provide food and shelter to orphans. If I market this foundation over 5 years to enhance my reputation, then I'm following strategic CSR. If I don't market it, but put together a reserve, even if that means compromising on my profits in some years a little bit, then that's CSR strategy. Alright, CSR strategy might not enhance profits. Strategic CSR does. Yes, Syed, the motive of directors should be ethics. If it enhances profit over the long term, then that's just a byproduct of it. Alright, so according to Carroll, organizations look at CSR differently. So according to Carroll, organizations have 4 responsibilities. So Carroll's model of corporate social responsibility is that an organization will have 4 responsibilities: economic, legal, ethical, and then philanthropic. And this is a very practical model. Listen to this carefully. Carroll says that all organizations cannot afford CSR right from the beginning. Carroll's model establishes that an organization first fulfills its economic responsibility, which an economic responsibility would mean increasing profit, making timely payments to suppliers, and ensuring that cash is available. So these are all the economic responsibilities that are necessary for the survival of an organization. Carroll says that economic responsibility should be an organization's topmost responsibility. Why should it be an organization's topmost responsibility? Because an organization starts with enhancement of profit. It then goes on to its legal responsibilities. Once an organization achieves its economic goals, the second is legal goals. Legal goals would be compliance with all laws and regulations. Once an organization works for its liquidity, for its profit, and starts complying with all laws and regulations, the next step is its ethical duty towards its stakeholders. So, for shareholders, employees, customers, what are an organization's ethical responsibilities? Listen to this carefully. I'm not asking you for economic responsibility. So don't say that shareholders' wealth maximization is an organization's ethical responsibility. What is an organization's ethical responsibility towards shareholders? Come on, start writing in your chat boxes, everyone. What is an organization's ethical responsibility towards shareholders? The first would be timely information. That shareholders, for their decision making, should get timely information. Transparency, Suleiman, absolutely well done. Transparency. Making conscious decisions to not do anything illegal or not do anything unethical, making conscious decisions, so on and so forth. What could be an organization's ethical responsibility towards employees? This is extremely important. Don't say fair wages, that is their economic responsibility. What is an ethical responsibility towards employees? Good working conditions, well done. Good working conditions, training, enhancing their skill set. So training could be an ethical responsibility as well. Medical benefits, well done. Paid time off, so paid leaves are all ethical responsibilities. Pensions, well done. Excellent, are ethical responsibilities for employees. The next is Ethical responsibilities to customers. Come on, everyone, start writing in your chat boxes. Quality is an economic responsibility for us. After sales services, excellent. Truthful information. So truthful marketing. Excellent. I love the ideas that you guys are bringing forward. After sales services. Warranties. Providing quality product, value for money. Setting the right price for product, absolutely. These are all ethical responsibilities. And then Carol says, once an organization has worked for profit and cash flows, once an organization has complied with legal regulations, once an organization has fulfilled its ethical responsibilities, an organization then reaches the philanthropic responsibility stage where an organization starts making donations, sponsorships to not-for-profit organizations because it believes that it has to give back to the environment and the society that provided it so much support when it was going through economic stage, legal stage, and the ethical stage. It is now time for the organization to pay back in the form of philanthropic responsibility, which means donations, sponsorships to not-for-profit organizations. The sequence is absolutely important, Hassan, because if an organization is still at the economic stage, you can't expect it to make philanthropic donations because it can't afford to do so. Once it passes through these stages, then it reaches this stage where it has the right resources and the time to make philanthropic donations. Taking Carol's model slightly further is another model that we're going to do, which is extremely important from exam perspective. So another model for CSR, we're still doing CSR, Gray, Owen, and Adam. So you'll have to give me 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you will NFPOs. So not-for-profit organizations. Syed, your answer is correct. It's not NAPOs, it is NFPOs, not-for-profit organizations, charities. All right. So I'm just going to give myself more space. All right, now listen to this carefully. Gray, Owen, and Adam says that you can plot all companies according to their CSR point of view on a continuum, on a scale. On one end of the scale is poor CSR, and on the other end of the scale is good CSR. All right. So Gray, Owen, and Adam says companies and directors can be classified into 7 stages, so 7 positions, depending on the point of view they hold towards CSR. Listen to this carefully again. Gray, Owen, and Adam says that there are 7 positions that directors can be classified in depending on their point of view towards CSR. So the 7 positions can be plotted on this continuum that I've just drawn in front of you, from poor CSR to good CSR. The first position of Gray, Owen, and Adam on this continuum is the pristine capitalist position. All right, so all right, can you all see? Just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to confirm. This is in day 4 slides and right over here. This is the 14th slide. We are starting the 14th slide. So those of you who don't want to draw it in front of you, you can follow these slides. I'm just going to plot this from these slides. Or if you want to draw it, I'm drawing it in front of you. It's right over here. So just to mention what slide we are at day 4, slide number 14 right now. Okay, so a pristine capitalist approach. according to Graven and Adams, in a pristine capitalist approach, or a director that is a pristine capitalist believes that organization does not have any ethical responsibility for CSR. He does not believe in CSR at all. His sole focus is profit. A pristine capitalist organization or a pristine capitalist director believes only in profit making. And this director believes that he should not give back anything to the society or the environment, because that is not his primary concern, because that is not what he was hired for. Now listen to this carefully. This director believes that the business of a business is business. He will believe that a business only exists to do business and nothing more. So any donations should not be expected of this director, because this director does not believe in making donations at all. This director does not believe in ethical or philanthropic responsibilities at all. Listen to this carefully. This director only believes in economic and legal responsibilities, and that's it. He does not believe that an organization has anything to do with ethical or philanthropic responsibilities, because he says that shareholders' funds are given to us to make profits, and that is the only thing that we should be doing, making profits. Do all of you understand a pristine capitalist? Do all of you understand pristine capitalist? Yes? No? All right. So a pristine capitalist director does not believe in CSR at all. Look at the second position. And that is, since we are going farther on the scale, we are going towards the right hand of the scale, the positions are going to get slightly better. Just slightly better. All right. So the second position is strategic CSR for pristine capitalists. Well done, Fawad. But like always, like I always say, like a broken record, do not overlap concepts until I asked you to do so. Fawad, dangerous. All right. So pristine capitalist was the first, expedient is the second. Listen to this carefully. An expedient director believes that profit should be a sole focus. So he also believes that profit should be the only focus of a business, but however, ready to fulfill minimum, just the minimum for CSR, if that can help, if that helps to increase profit and reputation. All right. Listen to this carefully. An expedient, like a pristine capitalist, also only believes in profit focus. However, this director is ready to do the bare minimum, just the minimum for CSR, because he thinks that anything that distracts from profit, anything that can bring my reputation down, I want to protect myself from. So, does this director believe in ethical CSR? No. But this director is ready to do just the minimum in order to save his organization from negative reputation in the market. So he wants to use CSR as a tool to develop his reputation in the market, but that's about it. Now, what is the difference between pristine capitalist and an expedient? The fact that pristine capitalist was not even ready to do the bare minimum. He did not want to fulfill CSR at all. While an expedient believes that, yes, profit should be a focus, hands down, no questions about it. But minimum CSR should be done in order to save the organization from negative reputation and low profits. Just as strategic CSR. Yes, Hassan. Yes. All right. So do you all understand expedient? Yes, memorizing names is important, Ali. Do you all understand expedients? Perfect. Crystal clear. I like that, Jawad. Okay. Next position on Gray, Owen and Adams continuum is the third position, which is a social contract position. As expected, since we are still going towards the right, this is going to be slightly better than the expedient approach. All right. So a social contract position says that society, so this director believes that, a social contract director believes that society and organization have a mutually beneficial contract. So listen to this carefully because I'm not going to write this down, it's too long. A social contract director or an organization believes that an organization exists in the society and society provides support to the organization in the form of customers, because customers come from society, in the form of suppliers, in the form of investors, employees. How does a business provide benefit to the society? In the form of employment, in the form of money, in the form of infrastructure. So society is giving something to the business and the business is giving something in return to the society. Remember, a contract position says CSR is necessary for this contract. So the business will have to fulfill CSR, because if the business does not fulfill CSR, then remember this is extremely important. If the business does not fulfill CSR, then society is going to withdraw its support and the business will collapse. How does the society withdraw its support? Customers will stop buying, suppliers will stop selling, investors will stop investing. If society withdraws its support, a business can't survive. So you have to remember, in a contract position, in a social contract position, the director believes that society and business have a contract. Both have to fulfill their parts in order for the contract to work. And this contract only works if both parties are fulfilling their parts. Society provides support to the organization and organization does CSR so that this contract can be maintained. Because they believe that if CSR is not maintained, then the business will collapse because society will withdraw support. Do they believe in ethical CSR? No. They are doing it for the benefit of their business. But they are going beyond what an expedient does and providing equal support to society. But an expedient does the bare minimum, while a contract position provides equal support to the society as much as the society is providing to the business. So this is a mutually beneficial contract. Listen to this carefully. Expedient and contract are different in an expedient does the bare minimum, while a contract does exactly as much as the society is doing for it. That's the difference between the two. Do you understand contract? Usman, what you have to memorize is this. So it's given in the slide. This. I've given you every detail in the slide. Is it necessary to memorize it or just understand it? You should understand it, just memorize the names. The names have to be memorized, just understand the details. All right. Let's move forward. So the next position on Gray, Owen and Adams continuum is social ecologist. The social ecologist position. Now listen to this carefully. This is the first position on Gray, Owen and Adams scale or Grove and Adams continuum that ethically believes, and these are two important words, ethically believes in CSR and is ready to compromise on profits. So even if that means that your profits will be reduced in a year, compromise profits for CSR. This is the first business that believes in, all right, I have no idea what's happened or why it's happened. I'm hoping that this would still work. Okay. Yes, it does. Okay. This is the first position that believes in ethical CSR. The rest of the positions, 1, 2, and 3, did not believe in ethical CSR, but were rather using CSR as a tool. An expedient used the bare minimum. A social contract did as much as the society was doing. A social ecologist goes beyond society's expectations and says that I'm ready to do what you don't even expect me to do simply because I believe that CSR is my ethical responsibility and I'm ready to compromise on profits for that. Ethically believes that. This is the first position that believes in CSR strategy, that having CSR should be an organizational objective and a strategy should be developed to fulfill the CSR objective. Ali, I've just explained it. They believe that CSR should be an organization's objective and the organization should take every possible step to fulfill CSR objectives. If that means making a strategy to fulfill CSR objectives, then so be it. The organization is ready to do it. So, the difference between social contract and social ecologist is a social contract director was only fulfilling CSR to maintain a contract with the society. A social ecologist fulfills CSR because he believes that CSR is and should be an organization's goal, an organization's objective. So giving back to the environment, giving back to the society should be one of the priorities of an organization. All right. Abdullah, absolutely yes. Okay. The next position on Reuben and Adams continuum is the fifth position, socialist. Listen to this carefully because you will be answering a question here. A socialist organization does not exist for profit making at all. This organization does not exist for making a profit at all. This exists for welfare of society. This exists to take resources from those who can afford them and give them to those who cannot afford the same resources. So a socialist organization exists to reallocate resources from rich to poor. Give me an example of such organizations. You've already written them down. All right. So what is a socialist organization? Which sort of an organization is a socialist organization? Tasneem, absolutely right. The rest of you, are you all here? Are you guys all here? Why aren't you answering? Come on, all of you. No, I don't want a yes or a no. I want an answer. So, are you guys listening? If you guys are listening, I want answers. All right, charities. So why do I have to wake you guys up after every few minutes? Come on, you should be answering this. You should know the answers to this at the snap of fingers. Socialist organizations, absolutely Ali, absolutely Jawad. all charitable organizations are socialist organizations that do not exist for profit at all, but only exist to serve public welfare. Now, this is where the continuum starts getting a little impractical. And the sixth position is a radical feminist position. So this position is a radical feminist position where businesses are required to change business culture and stop aggressive competition and adopt more values like dialogue and compassion. So, this position says that businesses should change their culture, and within that culture change, they should stop competing with each other, rather start dialogue. I have no idea. Rather start dialogue and compassion. So radical feminist approach is slightly impractical in the sense that if businesses stopped competition, customers would suffer. Because quality would go down. So yes, examination bodies is one of the examples, but remember that radical feminist position says that businesses must stop competing and start a dialogue and start compassion, which is slightly impractical when you think of it from a profit-making business point of view. And the best position as far as Gray, Owen and Adams is concerned is a deep ecologist position. And a deep ecologist would mean, and that means giving equal preference to all living things. Humans, plants, animals, all living things. So some things that you do not consider appropriate for humans, the same should not be considered appropriate for animals as well. So if testing on humans is wrong, then a deep ecologist organization would believe that testing on animals is also wrong. But can profit-making businesses be deep ecologists? Mostly no, because if they're not testing on humans, they would have to test their product on someone or some living thing, and that would be animals, because they think testing on humans would be more unethical than testing on animals. So a deep ecologist position believes that all living things within a society should be treated equally, and if some things are considered inappropriate for humans, the same things should be considered inappropriate for animals as well. So that's CSR, or Gray, Owen and Adams' 7 positions on CSR. Now, let's do a question. I'll give you a 5-minute margin to do the question. Like I said before, this is going to be a slightly longer session. Hopefully, we should be done by 9:15 or 9:30, but I'm going to try and take as little time as possible. So let's open the day 4 practice handout. You have to do December 2011 question number. I don't know what question number this is. Should be given on the slide. Hold on. Question number 4B. Just B. So right now, just B. 4B. Justify. Just going to use the pen. Justify using evidence from the case which of Gray, Owen and Adams' positions are best described by comments made by Robert Tenz and Margaret Heggs. All right. So these are the important paragraphs that you have to read. It is 8 8:44 now. We resume at 8:49. Start. It's 8:45 actually now. We resume at 8:50. So 8:50. Start. All right. So I'm hoping that you guys are all back. They're done in 8:48. Yes. So this is good. All right. Let's start very, very quickly. Robert Tenz and Margaret Higgs. All right. So Robert Tenz, according to your assessment, what position do you think Robert Tenz is at? So can anyone tell me what position is Robert Tenz exhibiting? What position on Reuven and Adams continuum is Robert Tenz exhibiting? Tasneem? No, your answer is not right. Robert Tenz is an expedient. I'll tell you what keywords to look for when you're thinking about what position Robert Tenz is at. All right. So over here, he wants to use CSR or the duration strategically to help cultivate the company's reputation in future recruitment, to reduce resistance to any future expansion the company might need to make. It's using donation to enhance reputation and reduce resistance to future expansion. And remember, as a rule of thumb, whenever you feel like a director is using CSR, that's always an expedient. An expedient is always a director that uses CSR. A social ecologist would then want to compromise on profit. A social ecologist believes in doing ethically the right thing. Do you think Robert is doing CSR for ethics? P, you would have to answer my question. Do you think that Robert is fulfilling CSR for ethics? Azmeena, that's not the right answer. No, he's not. So he can't be a social ecologist, because I wrote it down when I was doing the continuum that a social ecologist does it for ethics. If he's not doing it for ethics, then Robert cannot be a social ecologist. He is an expedient, because over here I wrote it down. I'm just going to underline it for you. Uses CSR for profit and reputation. Here it is. Robert Tenz is an expedient. Now, next, Margaret Higgs. Can anyone tell me what Margaret Higgs is? What position is Margaret Higgs exhibiting? This should be easy. Well done. Margaret Higgs is a pristine capitalist, because she believes that as long as company is fulfilling ethical and legal responsibility, it has no other responsibility remaining. So Margaret Higgs is a pristine capitalist. All right. So back to our slides and back to the last slides of these sessions. Day 5. All right. So, like always, I have a bad habit of not referring to slides at all and writing down on the Word documents. But since I'm very attuned to actually writing on the board and teaching in that manner, I think I'm more comfortable writing on a Word document. So that's why I keep referring to your slides, referring back to your slides so that you don't get confused. All right. So I'm going to try and cover environmental footprint in as logical manner as possible. All right. So the first is, let's start with environmental and social responsibility. So we are still doing CSR. This is just an extension of that topic. So we're still doing CSR. Environmental and social responsibility are an extension of that topic. So what should an organization do? So we've read what CSR is. We have also done what points of views an organization can take towards CSR. We are now going to do what should an organization do for CSR. So what do? There are 4 steps that an organization can adopt for CSR. The first is an organization can consider its impact on things other than profit. So the concept of CSR says that right now organizations only think about profit. There are other things to consider than profit. Number 2, they need to address its impact on those things. So the things that we are just going to identify. Then they should report on impact, and finally monitor the impact continuously, just like they monitor the impact on profit. So what are the things other than profit that should be important for an organization? The first is environment, the second is society, and the third is sustainability. So an organization should not only look at its impact on profit, an organization should look at its impact on environment, society, and sustainability. I'm going to be explaining all of them. It should then address its impact and try to minimize it. Minimize impact on environment, minimize impact, negative impact on society, minimize impact on sustainability. It should then report on that impact and then monitor it using environmental and social audit. How do you report on impact on environment, society, and sustainability? Through integrated reporting. Integrated reporting means any report that accumulates an organization's impact on profit, environment, society, and sustainability. That's integrated reporting. Now listen to this carefully. Present businesses only report on their impact on profit. The concept of integrated reporting says the impact on profit should be accumulated with the impact on environment, society, and sustainability to make the annual report meaningful. Because without these, an annual report is not meaningful at all. So integrated reporting says accumulate an organization's impact on everything: profit, environment, society, and sustainability, and then report on it. That's integrated reporting. With monitor, this concept says that environmental and social audits should be conducted just like the external audit is conducted for profit. So an external audit focuses on financial statements, while environmental audit would focus on an organization's environmental impact. Social audit would focus on an organization's social impact, and then external audit would focus on an organization's financial impact, which is the financial statements. So that's the concept of CSR and how you fulfill it. Now let's look at an organization's impact on environment, society, and sustainability. And let's see how an organization manages them. So we are just going to do step 1 and 2 that we just read. So 1 and 2 was, how does an organization consider its impact, and how does the organization address it? Let's do this. All right. So an organization's impact on environment is called its environmental footprint. Remember that. This is a key term. Remember, an organization's impact at 9:30, Nawal. All right. So an organization's impact on the environment will be called its environmental footprint. Now, let's talk about what environmental footprint can an organization have on the environment. Can you all list down the negative impacts of organizations on environment? Okay, carbon emission. So we are talking about what impact can an organization have? Environment, carbon emission, pollution. Good. Depletion of natural resources. Well done. Resources. Ozone depletion. Good. Noise pollution. So well done. All of them. Good. Excellent. So, can anyone tell me how can a business manage this environmental footprint? So, we were talking about step 2. Let's see how can we address this? How can we try to reduce the negative impact on environment? Can we first train employees? Can we then invest in updated technology to try to reduce pollution, right? Advanced technology, use of renewable resources. Good. Renewable resources. Now, my question, when we try to manage our environmental footprint, is it going to be costly? Yes or no? Is it going to be costly? Managing environmental footprint, is that going to be costly? I like how you all think about money, which is a good way to think, and you're all saying yes. Addition in cost, well done, obviously. Yes, SN. So tell me, you will have to apply costs to train employees. You will have to invest in updated technology, which means significant capital expenditure. You will have to use renewable resources of energy, which are normally more expensive than others. So all of these options, all of the ways to manage impact come with a cost that an organization will have to bear. And an organization will have to report on these costs, because you are ultimately using shareholders' funds for these costs. Yes, in financial terms, and yes, Neelam, that's the only term that we're talking about. Good, well done. Now, an organization's impact on society is called its social footprint. So an organization's impact on society is called its social footprint. Can anyone tell me what are the positive impacts or the negative impacts that an organization can have on society? Positive or negative impact that an organization can have on society. Jobs, good. Child labor, that is negative, well done, excellent. What else? Employment is jobs, anything else? Improvement in skills, training in skills, standard of living, well done. Confidence of shareholders, standard, absolutely. Diversity, the fact that we talked about diversity and giving all employees an equal opportunity, so diversity. Absolutely, standard of living. Okay, can an organization manage it? Yes, we can manage our impact on society by training, again, providing skills to employees, by recruiting from different areas to ensure diversity by paying fair wages to ensure standard of living. Now tell me, again, answer the question. Will this incur cost? Is this costly? Not using child labor is going to be costly because you use child labor primarily to reduce costs. Then, if you had an option, what would be more costly? Using normal employees or child labor? Child labor is always less expensive than using normal employees that are subject to labor laws. Not really no, I didn't ask you to compare the cost of environmental footprint and social footprint. I asked you whether it was costly. The answer should be yes. Recruitment, diversity cost, fair wages cost, training cost, and the business should report on these costs in integrated reporting. In integrated reporting. Now, the concept of sustainability is an organization should grow no idea why this keeps happening, all right, should grow at a rate that can be kept up for long periods of time. So over the long term, if you can sustain your growth rate, that's sustainability. Now tell me, I'm just going to ask questions so that you can understand sustainability. If an organization is growing at a super growth rate, can the organization maintain the same growth rate over 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years? If the organization is growing today at 20% every year, can this growth rate be maintained over 10, 20, 30 years? No. Why? Because the resources that you're using today will burn out in the future. So if you're using loan financing today to grow, remember, the more loan financing you use today, the lesser loan financing will be available tomorrow. Why? In a highly geared company, financing options quickly run out. Listen to this carefully. Any natural resources that you're using for production, like coal, like oil, will run out in future and you will not be able to maintain the same growth rate. Skills of employees can be renewed, but will they be renewed at the same rate that you're growing? Probably no, which means organizations should grow consciously at a rate that they can maintain over prolonged periods of time. That's sustainability. That's growing consciously at a rate that you know you can maintain over long periods of time. And if you can't, then your growth is not sustainable. Yes, all right. So this is extremely important. Environmental footprint, social footprint, and sustainability. These three can be addressed, these three can be identified, and then these three will be reported on using integrated reporting. So, listen to this carefully. In integrated reporting, the business will combine its impact on all four. Its financial impact during the year, its environmental impact during the year, its social impact during the year, and its sustainable policies during the year. That's integrated reporting. These four combine to form the integrated report format. Present annual report only looks at this and tends to ignore these that are equally important. Integrated reporting says you must combine all four to make an integrated report. Can anyone tell me the benefits of integrated reporting? Can anyone tell me the benefits? The same people who are preparing the annual report will now be trained to make an integrated report. So the same people, the board of directors, who will be making the annual report, Syed, will be making an integrated report. Now your annual report will be called an integrated report. The first is, it would be good for the company's reputation. It would enhance the company's reputation. Second, it would improve the quality of decision making. How? Your directors, your investors, all of the users of financial statements, the users of annual reports are now not only looking at financials, but several other perspectives. So it is going to improve the quality of decision making, where decisions will now be taken from not just financial perspective, but environmental, social, and sustainability perspective as well. It is also going to improve transparency. I love that answer, Mohammed Shoaib. You're using terminologies that are used in P1. Excellent. Improves transparency. It improves shareholder confidence. Excellent. Who is this? Shareholder confidence. Syed. Well done. It will improve shareholder confidence. Cost beneficial. Mohsin. Excellent. Just so here. All right. Improves credibility. Regina. Well done. Improves credibility. So well done. All of these are advantages and provides, the best is, provides competitive edge or competitive advantage. If your competitors in the same industry are not giving reports that are as detailed as yours, then you can get competitive advantage as well, because your shareholders will value you more highly than the others. All right, so there are several ways of making an integrated report. You could use the triple bottom line approach or the full cost accounting approach. Full cost accounting and triple bottom line approach. I'm just going to quickly go through those slides and then we are done. So the concept of full cost accounting says that costs and benefits of all company activities, including social and environmental impact, whether financial or non-financial in nature, are shown within the company's performance figures, which means within the company's integrated report. Examples of costs include contingent liability costs, fines for breaching environmental laws, the cost of loss of reputation, which normally cannot be quantified, the cost to ensure zero environmental effect. Zero negative environmental effect would be recycling or renewable energy sources of energy. So the business would have to do full cost accounting, and within those costs, not just financial costs, but also environmental costs that we just talked about over here. Environmental costs. So just over here, I'm sorry, this pen keeps doing that. These costs and these costs. That's what the full cost accounting is talking about. And social costs. So what we talked about right at the beginning. This is one way. Full cost accounting is one way of integrated reporting. Another way of integrated reporting is triple bottom line. So triple bottom line believes that the company's bottom line should not just be profit. Right now, investors called the company's bottom line, the company's profit after tax as the company's bottom line. So normally investors called PAT its bottom line. Now, triple bottom line approach says that a company should have three bottom lines: profit, planet, people. Planet would be a company's environmental impact, and people would be a company's social impact. All right. So, Syed, triple bottom line, sorry, full cost accounting means the costs that we talked about over here, they need to be measured. So I've run out of space to write. They need to be measured and they need to be included in annual report, which will now be called an integrated report. That's full cost accounting. So full cost, the concept of full cost would mean not just financial cost, but environmental cost and social cost as well. Combined, these three would be called full cost of running a business, not just financial cost. All right. Now listen to this carefully. We're done. I have included everything in your knowledge summary. If we only go to the knowledge summary once, I want to tell you how to use it in your exam. So I just want to tell you how to use the knowledge summary for your preparation. All right, so give me a minute. Jawad, I'm not going just yet. Okay, so this is how you will use the summary. Look at the first, okay, so the first thing, linkage to scans lecture notes is given. Please ignore that. Please ignore the linkage to scans lecture notes. So even if you're not using scans lecture notes, it's fine. This should be more than enough. Abrar, in a minute, just I need to tell you how to use this. If you look at the first topic and you go to concepts underpinning corporate governance, look at this. Questions to attempt. And it mentions June 14, question number 1A. Yes, it is applicable for September as well. Tasneem, your course outline has not changed. Your course outline has not changed. All right. So questions to attempt. June 14, question number 1A. June 11, question number 3B. Listen to this carefully, all of you. You read you prepare concepts underpinning corporate governance from the revision notes that are given here. And then you attempt these two questions. If you get the answers wrong, you go back and you read the concepts again, all right? And you come back and you start practicing. But you must do both of these questions in order to get the confidence that you have prepared this topic. I'll do one more with you. So board of directors, non-executive directors, their roles, their independence, the disadvantages and the advantages of non-executive directors. And then there are questions to attempt. Do both of these, and then you can assume that your topic is prepared. If you haven't done these two, don't assume that your topic is prepared. Then the chairman's responsibility, so on and so forth. There are questions to attempt at the end of every topic. Yes, going through this would be more than enough. Because any questions that you have, you can email me. You have my email address. You can email me queries and I will answer. So I'm normally very good at answering my emails. So remember that you have to prepare to the best of your knowledge. Hassan, they are in the handout section. If you click on them, you can download them and you can use them for your reference. Tomorrow we will not be discussing the actual answers of your mock in detail. What we are going to be discussing is the technique of attempting the P1 exam. So how do you read a case study? How do you structure your answer? How do you break down your requirements? What is the mark allocation and how should you look at mark allocation and think about how much to write. Cumulative testing is something that we just wrote for ourselves. This is for scans as well. So don't worry, that has no implication on the revision notes. All right? Okay. My email address is, you can jot it down right now. And let me open another Word document so that you have it for your reference. It is basma.noor. The B is not capital. There you go. It should be here. We'll discuss professional marks tomorrow. We will definitely be discussing professional marks tomorrow. Thank you guys very much for signing in and going through these sessions with me. I hope that you guys are all going to be, the timing is 2 to 4 here. You can ask for specific timings by emailing the moderators of the session to know what time zone you're in and what time zone we'll start. It's going to be a 2-hour session. I'm going to try and wind it up in less than 2 hours. Good luck, best of luck, all of you, and let's hope that you all pass the exam. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.